Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our next edition of CoreSELFie. How do we know who we are? And I'm delighted to invite you into this journey with me today. My name is Peter J. Redding. I'm a professional coach. I'm a professional master coach trainer. I've been doing this work specifically around coaching and supporting people to know who they really, really are for the last 25 years, 26 years now. And today, let me get, today we're exploring the 10 levels assessment. 10 levels assessment. So this is the fifth process that in the series that I've created for you. This is provided at pro bono, no charge for you and for everybody that you love to get more in touch with who they really are. And I talk about the 10 levels today. I've been experimenting with this for, like I say, for probably 20 years now. Like, who am I, and how did I get to know who I was, or who I wasn't, as the case may be. So we look at from two different perspectives. We're going to be looking at from an internal and an external standpoint, and we're going to be talking about how can I actually calculate. How can I actually figure out how much of me, how much of my core self is true to my core, my internal barometer, my internal guidance system, vis-a-vis the external, which may or may not be attuned or aligned or congruent with who I really am. So if you're interested in finding out who you are and to what degree your current operating system is functioning from a place of internal guidance versus external guidance, you are in exactly the right place. And it's great to have you here. I invite you to put your questions into on the YouTube chat. Cello will take and cut and paste those over to my Zoom platform that I'm in right now. There's about a 20-second delay, so it may be a bit of a delay for me to see that, but that's okay. And if you're on the Zoom call with me, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and we'll get those at different junctions. All right, so here we go. You know, I love to start off with quotes. Quote I have today comes from India. Sadhguru says, once you are trapped in your mental framework, there's no space to experience life in its full glory. I love this quote. It goes so much to my brain, my mind, my mental framework has been crafted and conditioned and programmed and socialized by a whole bunch of factors that are outside of me. And if I get trapped in that framework, and he even says, you know, he goes much further, deeper into this. If you haven't seen his videos, I encourage you to do so. But he talks about from 0 to 7 years old, it's all about the physicality. I'm getting into my body. I'm discovering fingers. I'm figuring out toes. I'm figuring out balance in terms of how to crawl, how to walk. So it's about a mental framework. From 7 to 14, it's more about the emotional. How am I feeling? What's going on around me? Am I being included? Am I not being included? Am I feeling isolated, and so on and so forth? Am I feeling loved? So it's a lot of emotional framework and development that's taking place at that time frame. 14 to 21 is about the mental, intellectual. I'm learning things. I'm going through high school now. I'm going through university, perhaps. I am gathering information that is informing my mental, and I'm developing my mental capacity for figuring stuff out. Now, What he also goes into then is there is a super mental framework that goes on from 21 to 28 that he calls, I forget the exact terminology, but it's like a super mental framework. And a lot of people will stop developing or get stuck in that mental framework. And that's the mental framework he's referring to here, that there is so much more that is available to a human being. And when he was talking about this, I said, yeah, back when I was 21 to 28, I didn't look any further. I was into my new career. I was earning lots of good money. I was being appreciated for my work ethic. And, for all practical purposes, there was no further exploration, especially into the inner part of me. So this really resonated with me when I heard this one. Now, my quote here is then, at what age will you be willing to reclaim your core self, your inner framework? And some people never do. I met a man, he was I'll say mid 60s. And this is at a point in time where I started coaching when I was late 40s. And we started getting into the inner framework of who he was. And he broke down and cried. He says, I honest to God, don't know who I am. I have always been told what to do in my career, in my position, in my family, in my society. And he was a very learned guy. This is not a person that was obtuse or unconscious by any stretch of the imagination, but he still didn't understand who he was. And so that's the exploration that we started with him. For me, the sooner the better. For me, it was at 37, midlife crisis. That is a kind of a wake-up time for a lot of people. And that can happen as early as 30 and as late as 50, from my experience of my students and my clients, my personal clients. But it's a great question. At what age are you willing to reclaim your core inner magnificent self? Hopefully it's today. If it hasn't been before, hopefully it's today. And welcome to the journey. So, internal, external, external programming, and who I am. I was told who I was, crafted who I was by my parents, by my teachers, by society, by culture, by country. I was born here in the United States, so I was swimming in the soup of American, right? From the time I was born. My ethnicity, Caucasian, you can see that. So I swam in the soup of being a Caucasian and not a person of color, okay? So that, again, has helped craft good and bad and ugly, all of it, to who I am today. My sexual identity, okay, male. And so the identity of being a heterosexual is also part of the soup that I live in and have lived in for now 72 years. Now, the other part of the external comes from things I watch, things I listen to, things that I am bombarded by. So television, social media, music, television shows, movies, advertisements for everything from what paper towels I should be using to what car I should be driving. And, that a good person or person that cleans the house properly uses this kind of towel or this kind of cleaner, right? All from outside of me. And I'm bombarded by that daily and have been for a lifetime. If I listen to something 1,000 times, then I start, oh, okay, that's the way it is. That's the way it's supposed to be for people like me. Now, the thing at early age, that comes completely without any form of examination, any form of consciousness of, yeah, but is this really for me or is this not for me? Like my parent told me, Peter, we know better than you. We know what's best for you. And I hear that 1,000 times between the ages of 0 and 10, then yeah. Who am I to argue with that? Who am I to say, well, I'm not so sure, Mom. But, in this case, that may not be true. No, I certainly did that at 37 when I started waking up and going, wait a minute, who am I and what's best for me? And who did my creator make me to be? And so I can start then declassifying, making it less important that I do X, Y, or Z that I've been told to do up until this point in time in my life, because I never question it, right? Or if I did question it, not very deeply. So that's the external, and it continues today. All this external stuff can continue today. My colleagues, here's how you're supposed to be a good coach. Here's how you're supposed to do, here's how you're supposed to do your marketing. Here's how you're supposed to do this, that, and the other. Well, maybe, and maybe not for me. I'm much more discerning. The internal portion is the deepest core of my unique being, the deepest core of my unique being, which I did not have a clue about from 0 to 37. Didn't understand. If I often say, if I was listening to myself now at 37, I'm like, who is this kook? What the heck is he talking about? Inner core of your unique being. It's like, what's he talking about? I know a lot about this now, and it's been my life's work working with this for the last, whatever it's been, 34 years now, 35 years. All right. Now, the other part of the internal versus the external is about programming. And I'm not making a judgment here, by the way, because there's a lot of, quote, programming or conditioning or socializing that I received early on in time, from 0 to 37. That was very beneficial. And thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, television shows. Thank you, churches and teachers and role models and heroes, etc., authors that help create and form me. But it's still from the external. And so I think that I have a personal responsibility to examine that. And I'm not talking about every single little itty bitty thing that is going wrong or not working right or not seeming to be congruent. I think there's a lot faster way of getting to it. And we'll actually talk about that today. And so programming, here's how you are meant to think about things. Here's how you're supposed to show up. Here's, the conditioning of what's right and wrong. The socializing of here's how to properly show up as a male American man. Here's how the proper way is to show up in a group of people or at work. There's also this sense of normalizing, and normalizing is decided by the people outside of me. They clump. White Catholic people clump. Here's how we are supposed to be, to be accepted into this fraternity, this group, this clique, this peer group. People clump. So the normalization is not from an internal source, but from a wanting to be included in a group. And this is the way I have to be. This is the way, and some groups go so far as, here's how you're supposed to think. Here are things that you need to do that are right, and here's the things that you do that are wrong, according to us. Yeah, all right. So again, some of that is really, really good, and some of it is, in my opinion, really, really bad. It's very dehumanizing. Grooming, preparing for a blank, preparing for a career, preparing for a child, preparing for my next higher level position in my company, preparing for retirement, preparing for coming back from a hospital and trying to live a healthier life. So preparing for the, again, I was told, conditioned, programmed, I need to prepare. Both Boy Scouts and the Marine Corps, be prepared. It's like I was in a groove. And boy, was I prepared. All except figuring out who I was. I had to do that on my own. No one actually told me to do that. Okay, so the internal is who my creator made me to be. Now, that's a lofty question, one that I hadn't even anticipated until I was 37. And for me and for the thousands of people now that I've supported in training and as a coach or as clients or as a speaker, to get access to that deeper self. And so you've heard anything, me talking about any part of this series, it's like, get to know what your values are, as opposed to your society's values or your gender's values or your culture's values, which again aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves, but they're not my core values or my core purpose or my core strengths, my natural gifts and talents. Okay, so that's again the differentiation between, am I living a life according to what others are wanting me to be and do, or the ones that are resonating from deep inside of me. The difference that I've found personally for myself and for my clients is that whatever I got in from the external changes, it morphs. It changes from year to year. It changes from group to group, company to company. Group, people that I'm interacting with to the next group that I'm interacting with. They can be conditional. Under these conditions, here's how I'm supposed to show up. Under these conditions, here's how I'm supposed to show up. Temporal means they're time bound. They change over the course of time, mostly for the benefits of others. If I act this way, then the people around me in my group are going to feel comfortable. If I act differently than what my group around me is expecting from me, now I'm making them uncomfortable. I'm not making them do anything, by the way. I don't believe I'm making them do anything, but their reaction to something that's different. What's he talking about? What's he talking about wanting to change? If that's not part of their way of being. It may benefit me. It may. And it may not. Okay. The internal doesn't change. It's steady. It's like a rock. It's like a compass. If I take a compass out of a drawer that I haven't worked with for 10 years, it still points north. Magnetic north, by the way. There's a difference. Okay, magnetic north. Same as it was when I was 10 years old, same as it was when I was 25 years old, same as it is now. And it benefits my core self. When I am congruent and aligned with my inner being, my inner self, then it benefits me, benefits my deep sense of personal fulfillment. It's awesome. And the other side benefit of this one, by the way, I cannot be intimidated or diminished by what somebody else says or wants from me if I'm true to myself. I'm going to say that again. There is no way that I can be embarrassed, diminished, put down, affected by anyone else outside of me when I am being true to my inner being. How cool is that? I've experienced that now for 25 years. I didn't experience that before that. I was always afraid of what other people thought. I was always afraid of, can I speak up around topic, whatever's on the table. Wow. That one's a big deal. Okay, so what kinds of things are we talking about specifically that come and now that I've adopted or adapted to is attitudes, different beliefs, different convictions, different habits, different judgments, all come about as a human being. None of those, I don't believe any one of those come before birth. Now, there's medical people and psychologists, I'm sure, that will say, yeah, no, the fetus is absorbing the vibrations and the energy of the mom, and I believe that. But again, that would be external. By definition, it's external. The beliefs that I have formed, the attitudes that I live by, are all of this world. Some are, I'd like to think that most of mine now are life affirming as opposed to life limiting. But sometimes I hear the news inadvertently because I tune it out, have for almost 30 years now. And I will hear people talking about their beliefs of what should be done, what's the right way to do something, what's the wrong way to do something. Here's what you should believe in. That sounds like it's life limiting. It only includes their kind of people. Wow. Human, part of being human. The internal, I think, is the divine part. It's again, core values, life purpose, natural gifts and talents. It's my soul's inner makeup that comes to me from, for me, it's a divine source. You can call it God, you can call it spirit, you can call it universe, you can call it creator, or specific names of Buddha, Jesus, Krishna. But there's that inner magnificence in every human being. And I really believe that, regardless of how they're acting, regardless of their current belief system, what they've been told of who they're supposed to be. I think that still resides within them. Moving on. So we get into the actual process. This is process number 5, the 10 levels of influence. And we've talked about a lot of these. This is a lot of fine print on here. I know you can't read it on my slide right now, but it's, early childhood adaptation, what parents told me, what teachers told me. And there's like 7 layers of external things that are listed here. I'll go to the actual Excel spreadsheet here in a second, which is in the current format that it's in, that you can download. You can download this for free at CoreSELFie.com. So you'll see just below me here, right? www.CoreSELFie.com, and download it for free. It is an Excel spreadsheet. If you don't have Excel, you can get access to Excel. There's instructions on the website on how to access that and get a free copy or license from, I think, Microsoft, that will do that for you. So you can actually open this up and work with it within an Excel. And once you do open it up, in fact, let me go to that right now. Let me go to my... Okay. Let me adjust here. There we go. There's a way to keep score. Is that cool or what? And there's, I'm very proud of this one. That I can score myself in terms of what percent of who I am came from the external. And I believe every human being has, whether you like it or not, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever it might have been your upbringing and the soup that you swim in, the air that you breathe, the water that you absorb around you, in the way of culture, in the way of what's right and what's wrong, all the above, and all parts of that. Let me just move one thing more here in my screen so that I can focus on it. So the top part of this form, and I'm talking about this portion in here, let me just see if I've got the right thing going here. Yeah. So the top portion of this is an explanation of a lot of what we just talked about. I get all kinds of programming from the outside world. Yep, thank you very much, got it. The internal accessing, not assessing, but accessing, is that knowledge that can only come from within an individual human being, okay? So the first 7 things that we talk about down here, and let me see if I can scroll down on this one. Yeah. There's 10 layers, 10 levels, as the name of the process talks about. The first 7 are over here. They're described in generalities of what could be inside of that, just as like a prompt for you to think about and say, okay, so what did I pick up from my parents? What did I pick up from my organization, the organization I'm currently working with right now? What did I pick up from growing up as an American citizen, or as an Indian citizen, or as a French citizen, and so on? What are some of those things and inputs that, and thank you very much, by the way, right? There's a whole bunch of those things that are very precious and very beautiful. So now, the only places that you can put information into this, by the way, because I blocked the other cells, is the red numbers. In fact, let me move up. There's 2 numbers up here that I skipped over. So my current age is 72. All right, everybody knows that. It's not a secret. And today is 14 September. So I put that in, right? I put that up here in Excel, up in the top here. And then that will change that cell. So 14 September, thank you. Then when I move over here, and let me come back to, there we go. I'd like to believe that, for me, it's a minority at this stage, at age 72, that I have maybe retained some of the good stuff, but kind of shed or changed or morphed or replaced some of the life-limiting beliefs, life-limiting things that I got from school or outside of external assessments and so on. So I put in here 5%. Yeah, I probably still have 5% of what my parents taught me when I was 5 years old. And thank you, Mom and Dad. All right. It still works for me and it's still beneficial. 5% from my early schooling years, maybe 2% from my higher education of what actually is applicable to how I live my life. 2% from my cultural adaptation, and that's from 0 to 70. Just, you know, as a framework to put it into. If you're not 70 yet, that's okay. Just whatever, you know, from 0 to 45. From cultural adaptations in terms of TV, social media, advertising, does that have a major impact on what I do and what I buy and how I'm supposed to behave and what I'm supposed to wear? No, almost 0. So I put 0 in that one. Same thing for external assessment tools. Assessment tools that have you, they give you a list of words and they say, okay, what are the top 5 words? And those represent this to you. I don't put any stock in that, frankly. So 0 on that one. And maybe 1% on, there's a couple of things that I learned about myself through Myers-Briggs. And I think those still apply. I kind of like that. A whole bunch of it didn't, by the way. And the big issue that I personally have about any kind of assessment is that it generally tends to put me in a box, right? So I was in the 1 to 3 percentile of population in terms of my, INF, whatever it was, INFT or INFJ, then the rest of the population, if you were something else, then you were in, 14% of the world population, according to the research, which they've been doing now for, as far as I know, probably 4 or 5 decades. So there's a little bit piece of that still there. So 1%. Yeah, that's what I like it to believe. Now, on the other side of this, it's more likely that I still have 20%, maybe. And I can tell you at 37, these are my numbers. That's why I put them in here. And this is the numbers that you'll find when you download it, by the way, which you can change immediately. But this is at 30, I put myself back at 37 years old and said, all right, so where was I at 37? Well, a whole bunch of it was still from early childhood and early education and so on. So I got 20 and 10 and 30 and 10 and 10 and 5 and 5 and so on that. And then there's just like a running aggregate total here, right? So like 90% of where I was at 37 years old was from the external, because I had done no internal work. Moving up, these last 3 out of the 10. So you see it ends with 7 up here for the external. It starts with 8, goes to 9 and 10 in a different color here, kind of a pinkish purple. My learning and knowing by accessing the internal core self part of me, or drivers. And again, an explanation of here of spending hundreds or thousands of hours, which I've done personally, and getting to know who I am from the inside out, which is what all about this work is all about. So again, what I would like to think of it as now. So if you look at this from my perspective, 72 years old, I am on the left-hand column here. So it's 20, 55, and 10. 20, 55, and 10. When I read these things here in terms of knowing, the number 9 is about, now that I know it, have I done anything with it? Am I applying it? Am I aligning my life decisions? And not just the big ones, not okay. So do I want to look at retirement in the next 5 years? No, I already went through that one. But day to day, what kind of decisions am I making about the work that I receive and that I accept? What kind of decisions am I making about the relationships that I want to have with my siblings? What kind of relationships do I want to have with people in the world of coaching? Where do I spend my time? Where do I donate my time, etc.? So am I applying, utilizing, living the things I've learned about who I really am in my day-to-day life? It's actually the exercise that we did last week in terms of a 30-day tracking, which is a spectacular way of fine-tuning this thing and becoming better and better at making those day-to-day decisions. Number 10 is now that I know it, which is number 8. Number 9 is, am I living congruently or in alignment with the things that are truly me? The final one, 10, is, do I catch myself being myself? Do I catch myself and acknowledge myself and say, wow, really good work, Peter. That is very congruent with your core beingness, your core self. And that's why I felt so darn good. Woo, arriba. I love who I am. I love who I have become. I love who I've come back to be, is probably the most accurate way of stating that. I've come back to be and living my core self that I have always been. And 10% of the overall meanness, me, out of the 100% down here, I put 10%, right? So, and you can put anything in here. If I were to put in 85%, let's just do that right now. If I put in 85% here, now I am at 130%, which screws everything up. So something else then has to change in that column of numbers to add up. If you look up here, the running total or accumulation of my external self is at 15%. Let me put this back at minus 30. Okay, so that was at 55. Let's put that back at 55. So I have 100%. Okay, now adjusted percentages that add up to, they do add up to 100%. What I would like to think them to be over here on the left, what they may be more likely to be if I'm really, really true to myself. And then further down, it's automatically calculated in terms of, these have to add up to 100%, obviously. So the external part of my day-to-day driving, day-to-day decision making, day-to-day alignment, 15% still comes from the external. But the majority, a vast majority in my case now, after working with this for 35 years, is 85% is driven from the internal. And that is pretty accurate for me. That's pretty accurate. But in any event, in terms of the tool that I'm giving you, process number 5 here, these will have to add up to 100%. The other one also has to add up to 100%. But look at this now. At 35, 37 years old, 90% of what was driving me was from the external. That's all I knew. 10% was kind of accidental, frankly. Some things felt better than others. It's kind of like, the old saying, follow your bliss. If you follow your bliss, you're going to, be ultimately morph over to what you're meant to be doing and how you're meant to be doing it, I think. But it was mostly obtuse, obscured. Now, the final payoff down here is I am utilizing an estimated percent of my full potential. And I have CSOS, CoreSELF operating system, CoreSELF operating system. Right now, I'm operating at 84% core operating system, and it feels great. It feels healthy. It feels vibrant. It feels generative. It feels like I'm contributing to the world when I'm meant to be contributing. Why my creator put me here. Back when I was 37, yep, I was still contributing, but maybe at 39%. Now, this is my formulas that I've used in here. I real basically, the formula is take everything that I've taken from the external world divided by 3. All right, so up here, if I move back up here, the external world, 90% when I was 37. And for me, and I've gone back and forth with different numbers for figuring out at different stages of my life and what I've observed now in my clients and my students. And I'm giving credit for 1/3, basically 30%. That's actually 33%. I think that's actually what the number I used. So it's 1/3. 1/3 is really good. 1/3 is probably not so good, and 1/3 of it is neutral. So I'm using 1/3 and giving credit for operating at 1/3 of everything that I got from the external, because it's not all bad. For the part that is coming from an internal source, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, the internal source is heightened by the number of years and hours I spend on it. So for this, it is the inner journey. The inner journey can come from yoga, it can come from prayer, it can come from retreats, it can come from contemplation, it can come from reading, it can come from walking in nature, it can come from asking yourself deeper questions of who am I? And am I living congruent with that? Am I contributing when I'm here to contribute? It can be working with a coach that can work at a deeper level, as opposed to just a transactional part of life of, how do I earn more money, and how do I get my next job, and, how do I get along better with my girlfriend, and all of that business. But whatever deeper work that you've done, I use a formula, and I'll tell you what it is here. I asked a question here. I began my serious inner self exploration and conscious change. And if you're just starting, put your current age in here. So if it was me listening to me right now, and I hadn't done anything up until I was this age, 72, I would put 72 in here. In fact, let's do that. Put 72 in here. And hit enter. Now look what happened to my score. My score goes down because I haven't done any work. And look at over here. Where I was at 84. I'm now at 67. Because I haven't fully integrated all the things that I know about myself here. The more that I spend with me and the inner self, the higher the potential is going to be. So you can play around with this and say, okay, so maybe you haven't done any major inner work. I'm going to put this back at 37, just because that's the way you're going to find that the Excel spreadsheet when you download it. And experiment with this in terms, okay, so I haven't done any major inner work. Maybe I've done it for 2 or 3 years. But for that work, I am enhancing that from a formulaic standpoint by a factor of, 75%. And the longer that you're in it, there's also a piece of that formula that accounts for the age difference, the number of years that you've been doing this. Because my experience is that even though I really knew myself pretty well at 25 years ago, when I did a lot of this initial work, I know so much more about it now by practicing with it, integrating it into the finer details of my life, decisions I'm making, judgments that I'm dropping about myself and other people, on and on and on. Yeah. So experiment with this. Let me see if there's any questions here that have come up as a result of our exploration so far. And I'm going to bring up my chat box here. Okay, in our chat box, we've got, you can download this, at CoreSELFtech.com/free resources. Sanjeev asked a question here. Does external influencing stop at 70? I don't think for me, yes, basically. And the answer to that would be yes. But I think it stops having a major effect when you know yourself from the inside out. So this could happen at 40 for some people, and God bless you. It certainly didn't for me at 40. But there's a sense of having an inner compass, an inner guidance system. And when it's kind of like flipping the switch over to that, then the external has little or no impact on me. Now, there are things from the external that may align and be congruent and may actually support my inner knowingness. And I absolutely want to, stay tuned with that. I can feel energetically connected with that. Conversations around social injustice or improving that, making it better, making it less judgmental. having more inclusion in organizations. I very much relate and resonate with those kinds of conversations that are taking place right now in the world. That is very much aligned with my congruency of who I think and who I know Peter Redding to be. Yeah. But does it stop altogether? I doubt it. I mean, the world hasn't stopped, and I still get, now instead of getting, okay, so I'm dating myself. There are only 3 channels of TV when I was a kid, black and white, right? ABC, NBC, and CBS. Those were the only 3 in the US. And they didn't even have a program all day long. It stopped at 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock when they did the evening news, and then it went into it for another 8-10 hours until the morning. Now I have 595 channels on my current TV, and I can get more if I go to other places that can go through the internet, right? So I'm getting bombarded with more external than I am, but the impact, yeah, that's why I use 70 just arbitrarily. For some people, it's going to be less than that. Some people they may still be impacted by it, and they're worried about, how their neighbors think about them when they're 85 years old or 90 years old. And I know people in those categories that go, they're scared to death. People are going to judge me if I don't blank. Wow, you're 85 years old, man. At what age are you going to get connected to your inner core self? Same question, different age. Yeah. What other do we got here? We got from Charles here. It seems to me that CoreSELFtech is a foundation for inspired learning. Inspired, emphasized. Yeah, it is. It's about learning about myself. It's about being kind to myself. It's about looking at what's working as opposed to what's not working. What am I learning as opposed to what I don't, the gap. All of that's within inspired learning that Charles is referring to here. We're actually going to be doing a series about that. Just it prompts me to say that, Charles. Thank you for that. After exploring self-mastery, the next session I'm going to be going into, this will probably go into next year, we'll be exploring learning mastery, and we'll be talking all about inspired learning that I've been using, and it came through my partner and I back 26 years ago when we started Coach for Life, and it's absolutely remarkable. Yeah, people learn 2 or 3 times faster than they do under a critique-based learning environment. But that's off topic, and if you're interested in that, kind of come back, stay tuned. We'll be talking about that next year. Okay, Rajiv's got, I'm curious, operating at 84% of CSOS. How does this show up in your way of being? It shows up in my way of being of doing the work I'm here to do. Like right now. I would not have, I would not, this would have been so far out of my comfort zone when I was 37 or even 47. I can't tell you. It's like, whew, no, I can't say what I believe because people are going to shoot me. People are, I mean, not literally, but verbally shoot me, discount me, dismiss me, say bad things about me. Now, this is why I'm here. This is who I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be a spokesman for honoring your core self, knowing your core self, knowing that you do have a core self. I wrote a book back a number of years ago. It's called Positively Brilliant Self-Mastery. And one of my students brought it to some prison work that he was doing, volunteering at his local incarcerated prisoner facility. It's called a jail or prison. And he gave the book to one of the prisoners, and the prisoner came back to him after reading it. It's a little short book, like a month later when he came back to visit him, and he said, I never knew that I was innately magnificent. That concept had never gone through this guy's brain. I don't remember how old he was, but my guess he was between 35 and 40. Never dawned on him. So the way I am being, I I still have some nervousness around some things, but not a whole lot and not for very long. It allows me to be authentic and show up just without facades, without masks, without pretenses. You'll get Peter, whether you're in my classroom or you're on this live streaming, or we meet at Publix down there and I'm buying some tortillas for my 5-gram keto diet. It's me, as me, as me. Yeah. It also keeps me in a lane and not veering too far off in terms of being dazzled by the next shiny thing. And there's still some shiny things that I get dazzled by. I'm currently working on designing a woodworking shop, and I look at Grizzly's new 20-inch thickness planer that has a helix head that is a series of carbide cutters that are in it, and there's like 64 of them or 98 of them, 96 of them in 4 rows. It's like woohoo. But I don't get sucked into ventures that aren't congruent for me, or work that's not congruent for me, or I don't have to buy the next shiny thing in terms of an automobile, which I used to be very adapted, susceptible to. It brings a peace of mind and a peaceful life, and a sense of, at the end of each day, I am incredibly grateful for my life and for what God has provided me. I've come up with a new saying that I heard again in a movie, right? Back about a month ago now. And one of the lines that came out was, and it was just almost a throwaway line in the movie. It's a guy who was exhausted. He's probably 70 years old, about my age, playing a part that he's still in a restaurant, serving, food to people in this little cafe, bringing plates back to being washed. And somebody said, "You look tired." And he said, No. I am blessed with work. I'm blessed with work, in an Irish accent. It was stunning. I go, oh, I love that. And so that's me. I am blessed with not any work, but my work. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Rajiv. I appreciate that. Okay, so we got some more here. Sanjeev has got, so it reduces or stops when one fully starts living aligned with the internal source, nothing to do with age. I would go along with that. Yes, absolutely, Sanjeev. And I would wish for all of you to not wait until you're 70. Okay. So the more focused an individual is in terms of who they are and who they're meant to be and who they were created by, to be that, to utilize the natural gifts and talents that they've been endowed with. I like that word, endowed, because then it's not, I haven't earned them per se. I may know them, but not have developed them. That's up to me. I have a free will to either develop it, not develop it, live according to my my life purpose or not. But I don't have a choice if I don't know it. I'm still susceptible to what others want from me here. We're paying you a good salary. We're giving you a good annual bonus. We've given you promotions. We've sent you on incentive trips. Here's what we expect back. You may be working 60-hour weeks. You may be working over the weekend. You may be doing this, that, and the other. It's part of the deal. It's part of the package. And I've been there. I've done that. And it was exhausting. But when I stopped dancing to the beat of an external drummer, and I start listening to the music within me. Wow. It's delicious. And I still may get exhausted, by the way, right? I'm a human being, but it's my work. It's not somebody else's work. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? These are great comments and questions, so I appreciate that. We've got like about 5 minutes left. Are any others that come in? You come in now. I'll wrap it up here in a minute and let you know what's ahead of us. Channels 596 could be the inspired CoreSELF learning. Charles, you're a comedian. I have 595 channels. He's suggesting that I may take the space up for the next one. Yeah, this is my prime channel right here. Yeah, it's called YouTube live streaming. So let me talk about what's coming up. Let me come back to my slides. Okay. Oh, and this is not a disclaimer. This is a claimer in terms of please use this everywhere. Use it in your trainings, use it in your family, use it in your coaching, use it in your corporations. The only thing I ask is that you don't change anything. It's as is, and you keep all the attributions and send them to CoreSELFie to get it. And you can't charge for it. It's free. It's free to the world. And it's if it's directly from me or through you, it's free. So don't put it into, give me 1,000 rupees and you can have this, or $100 and you can get this. No, you can get it for free, and I intend to have it stay for free. So that's what that says. Next week, we'll be into episode number 7. We're going to go through the final 6 out of the 6 processes that are available and will continue to be available for free, as I said. And we're going to be talking about CoreSELF mastery assessment. So to what degree am I knowing? To what degree am I currently living or aligning the things that I know about myself deep down? And to what degree am I celebrating or reinforcing or acknowledging myself for living this piece of who I am, who I be, what I am meant to do? It's also talking about how much of my core self potential am I operating from today, and what is untapped potential? How much untapped potential? Now, the analogy here that I use, and I love using this metaphor, is the operating system in the computer or the phone that you are seeing me right now, whether you're live with me or you're watching this on YouTube at some point in the future. The operating system that is allowing you to do that has been upgraded 1,000 times, maybe 5,000 times from the time that you were 20 years old till now. So let's say over the last 20 years, when 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when the first computers started coming out from Apple or K-Pro, my first computer, it was a portable. It had a handle on the top of it. It was 28 pounds. And I carried it from San Diego to Tokyo, Japan, where I was living at the time. All right, that was one of the first portables. The software has changed. Got it? The operating system then can't. It would be impossible to run the systems that are available today to do a video like this, audio video. The same thing with a human being. If you are working with an operating system that is 20 years old, or 30 years old, or 40 years old, or 50 years old, guess what? You have so much potential that is untapped. And here's my most awesome wish for all of you that are exposed to me and exposed to this CoreSELFie and this idea of exploring self-mastery, is for everyone to really know who they are so that nobody else can tell them differently. Thank you for sharing your opinion of me, but that's not me. Thank you for telling me what to do, but that's not why I am here on the planet. I am here for untold reasons for people that if I don't do what I'm meant to be doing, then they will not get the benefit of my core self. That's my greatest wish. And in order to do that, you need to upgrade your operating system. It's not that the old one is bad necessarily, but it's also, I'm going to take a wild guess here, it's not totally representative of you and your awesomeness, your total core awesomeness. So with that, one quick thing is we're going to extend this series by another month to do Q&A, because I haven't had a lot of time to answer questions or go through individual examples. So next week we'll finish up with process number 6. We did 5 today. And then the next 4 weeks will be Q&A. So it'll be a lot of time. I won't have a lot of content per se, but we'll go back through these 6 processes and take them one by one over the course of 4 weeks and answer any questions, have dialogues, etc. And if you'd like to be part of the inner circle of the Zoom, then send an email to support@CoreSELFie.com. Support. In fact, Cello, if you could put that in the chat box right now, what's the email that you can give them an individual invite into the Zoom so that we can do live interactive. So there you have it. It's this, excuse me, support@CoreSELFtech.com. Support@Core, CORE, self, SELF, tech, TECH.com. With that, I will wish you goodbye. Have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. Namaste.